Hi there, I'm Sarah Devonche from Knit a Bit of Whimsy, and today I'm talking about short rows, the twin and turn method. And video is specifically for the short rows used in my Country Girl Bandana Cowl. We're using a specific set of stitches, the left cable and the right cable, in conjunction with the short rows. So it's kind of a tricky little thing. It's kind of a specific help video, but if you're doing something similar, this might help. So we start off, we're doing the left cable stitch, and you can see we insert the needle between the next two stitches, knit the second stitch on your needle without removing it, and then knit the first stitch. So this is the left cable. It's just a 1x1 left leaning cable. Now in this particular pattern, you'll often come to a point where there's a stitch marker right in between where you need to be working. So all you do is pop the stitch marker up, well, slip the stitch off purlwise, slip off the stitch marker, perform the first stitch, which again is the left cable, pop that stitch marker back on, and then finish off your left cable stitch. So again, for the left cable, we insert our needle between the first two stitches, knit the second stitch, and then go ahead, knit the first stitch, and remove both stitches off the needle. So I'm just going to zoom across. Here's a view from the back. I'm going to kind of zoom across and get to the next stitch marker. So you can see we're working the left cable. Insert our needle between the first two, knit the second stitch, then knit the first stitch. In this particular pattern, it's set up so that you should finish this round, or when you hit the stitch marker, it should be on an even stitch count, if that makes sense. So you should be able to finish your left cable, do both stitches of it. So here we are at the very end. Do one last left cable. Now at this point on the Country Girl Bandana Cowl, we remove the stitch marker. We disregard the part where this is actually on double pointed needles. I'm making a little mini one here as an example, but typically you would be on circular needles. This is a little bit less confusing. So after the stitch marker, you perform one more left cable stitch, as usual. And then we're going to twin the next stitch. So all you do is you insert your needle as if to knit the next stitch, do the knit, and just pop it back onto your needle. So without removing the stitch you just knit. And those two stitches together, the twinned stitch, is actually just one stitch. You're going to be working that as a single stitch. Now on the way back, we first purl one stitch so that we get that offset. And this is the back cable is what I called it, so that I could differentiate the front and the back of the cable. And all you do is, this one's a lot easier I feel than the left cable. You purl the second stitch first. And then you purl the first stitch. And this one I find works up just a little easier, a little quicker than the left cable. It's a little bit easier to get your needle in. And I'll just buzz across here to get to the other stitch marker, because the other side of the twin and turn, and try to keep your yarn on your needles, right? The second twin and turn, the wrong side twin and turn, is a little more confusing. So we'll go through that one as well. So purl the second stitch, don't remove the stitch yet, purl the first stitch and remove both. And again, because of that offset, the first stitch we did in this short row, you should end up with an even number. So you can finish that back cable before you hit the stitch marker. So now you remove the stitch marker. In this particular pattern, we're going to do one more back cable. And then we're going to twin this stitch. So this one's a little bit trickier. You slip the next stitch onto your right hand needle, and there's a little bump right there, the little purl bump. You pick that one up, and we're going to purl that. And that becomes your twin stitch. So you can see there's two right there, but they're kind of end up on top of each other. So I'm just going to undo that and do that one more time for you. So the stitch starts on your left hand needle, slip it to your right hand needle, grab that purl bump that I've now stretched out a little bit, purl that stitch, and you keep those both together. So then we slip them back to our left hand needle. We're going to turn our work and replace the marker. And then you move on from there. So you would go back, you do the first offset stitch, and then you continue with your left cable stitches from there. So that was the short rows as used in the Country Girl Bandana Cowl. Thanks for watching. You can find more tips, tricks, and patterns at knitabitofwhimsy.com.